All right, you ready to do this?
Ready.
Alrighty, we will get started, everybody. My name is Hans Nelson. I'm the director for the Center for Hospitality and Business here at Black Hills State University, Rapid City. And we are launching our Rapid City Rundown, as we call it. And that is the Rapid City Rundown's a fireside chat experience to get the rundown on what's happening and who's making it happen right here in Rapid City and in the Black Hills area. We kicked this off last month. It happens every last Wednesday of the month. We did a little bit of a early one for this month, but we invite guest speakers to come in to share more information about who they are and what they're doing with the community, and it's a great opportunity for community members and students to come and engage. But it's kind of a cool, natural, kind of casual interview. And this month's guest speaker is kind of highlighted in our West River Health Sciences Center. We have Miss Holly Purley here with us. Holly has 15 years of experience in the healthcare field and has worked in the fields of solid organ transplant, adult intensive care, and nursing professional development. At Monument Health, her work focuses on successful onboarding and mentoring for new nurses and students. And in her free time, she choreographs musical theater productions and serves as president of the board of directors for the Black Hills Playhouse and ACTS. Welcome, Holly. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now I have to go personal really quick because the Black Hills Playhouse is a soft spot in my heart. My mom was out there all the time with the USD theater program.
Yeah.
So she's on the wall of fame out there. Deb Carr, you'll have to check it out the next time you're there.
So glad you told me that.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of memories going there as a kid and being a part of that. So
Great.
Really cool.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's my brothers are alums. I've been on the board for 5 years or so now,
Awesome.
and it's got a soft spot in my heart too.
Cool.
Yeah.
I haven't been there for ages, so I definitely need to head back there this summer, hopefully.
Great.
So
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about you and healthcare. So tell us a little about yourself and what got you into the healthcare world.
Well, I am born and raised in Pierre, South Dakota. Been in Rapid City for the better part of my adult life. I started out my first college degree. I went to USD Vermilion and got a teaching degree in high school science that I say I never really used. Maybe I'm using it now, I don't know. And have kind of a typical story. I was a young, healthy person, never in the hospital before. Had my first daughter and was like, I want to do what these people are doing. Being involved in people's lives at critical times, important milestones, and really a rewarding experience. So after that, went to school out here at SDSU, went to the nursing program and graduated in 2006, and then have worked in the areas that you mentioned. But it's a great career, which we'll talk more about, completely rewarding and so many different avenues to take. So that's me. I've got 2 daughters. One is now a coyote herself, USD in Vermilion,
Awesome.
And one 8th grader here in Rapid City. So
Cool.
That's me.
Very, very cool. You talk about, I went to school at USD, got my teaching degree, and I don't teach in the elementary classroom anymore, but I think, maybe similar to you, once you're a teacher, I think you kind of have that spirit of helping people and working with people, and you have that connection. And
Sure.
I work for higher ed, so
Right,
it's somewhere down there, and you're teaching people and nurses, and which we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah.
So before we dive really too into healthcare, also tell us about what else you're involved here in the Black Hills community.
Yeah, so you mentioned some of it. In my free time, if that's what we call it, I am involved in the arts and theater around Rapid City and the area. So that's been on hiatus largely in the last year, but both at Black Hills Community Theater and the Black Hills Playhouse, back when the Firehouse had a theater upstairs. So that's a passion of mine, always kind of labor of love, and those projects, when they come around, take a lot of your time for a short amount of time, and then we open and they're done, and that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so a lot of great friends who are involved in that or work in those fields here in town. So that's part of my passion outside of work. The activities of my daughters keep me busy, and I like to get out into the hills, as I think a lot of people do around here. That's kind of an easy escape for me. So
Totally.
Yeah.
So healthcare education is one of the focus areas of Black Hills State University, Rapid City. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the West River Health Sciences Center and Monument Health are partnering to increase the nursing workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great partnership that I know is a young one, but really great, I think, and something that we're looking forward to. So what I most hope it sort of becomes, or hope that we all get out of it, is well-trained, talented nurses, right, and or other healthcare professionals, really. At Monument Health, and with everywhere across the state and across the country, really, we can use that very thing, right? So through our partnerships, through job shadowings and internships and whatever else is to come, I really hope that we can help develop some real-world experiences, right? So that nurses who graduate from school are comfortable and ready, and they know what real world is, sort of making that transition easier and better. If we've learned something, certainly through the pandemic and even beforehand, one of the troubles that new nurses have is not knowing what real world is like, and oh my gosh, this is too much. And so how can we work together to prepare them academically and clinically for what they're about to get into? And I think we have some great and exciting plans for that.
Totally. I think one of my favorite components is it's really bringing these three big universities across the state together, working together, which in the past it was always rivalries, right, but I think it's really neat that they're under the same roof and working, and then having involvement with AHEC as well. I think it's just a cool thing, and I think you nailed it. Having that exposure and that increase, as I told you, my fiance is an ICU nurse. She's like, God, they didn't train us hardly at all with what actually happens, and so.
Right. And also knowing that everything we do is a team, right? So you're going to have jackrabbits and coyotes and working next to you forever in this area, and so it's all about teamwork, and what a great partnership.
And a fun rivalry. Conversations are always fun,
Yeah.
Cool. So as you're working with new nurses at Monument Health, what are some of the qualities or characteristics that help new nurses succeed? And also then what are some of the ways nursing students could prepare for their first position working and using those skills? Yeah.
So the things I look for, and I'm not a person who hires new nurses, I interact with them a lot, both as students and externs, which is a program we can talk about, and then as new hires. So it's great to sort of see people over the continuum. But what I look for and appreciate is flexibility, a willingness and kind of recognition of change. If we know something about healthcare, it's that change is inevitable. And so to have kind of a hard line against change is going to be difficult in this industry and profession. So an acceptance of that, and a kind of willingness to accept what we've learned, and when we know better, do better type of thing. So a flexibility, definitely an attitude of teamwork. There's a real sense of autonomy in nursing, where you kind of are an advocate and control this patient's plan of care in a lot of ways, but we don't do any of it alone, So there's an independence and an autonomy, but definitely have to work well with people. Communication and accountability are big ones too. We live our whole lives communicating in the ways that we think we need to, right? But professionally then with patients and families who are in some critical places in their lives, that's another level. And so a willingness to be kind of professional in that way, and accountable to them, to your peers, to this team who counts on you. So a lot of things that are hard to teach and hard to learn, but essential. We'll often say in my world, we can teach anybody to put this tube in or put this IV in or whatever. Those skills things aren't the hard part, but it's the head and the heart of going into this profession. So.
I hear that a lot, soft skills. I've had employers tell me when I worked in career development that, we're going to teach them how to plug in, where to do it, and how to do that, but they need that soft skill of development and being a person and caring. And, I've even heard sometimes there's employers, they see a 4.0 and they kind of hesitate because it's like they're just all about the hard skill and learning the techniques and theory, but then those kids that are out there involved building those communication skills are huge. So.
And you mentioned too experience, and actually just with the PCC group I spent today with, one of my things about relevant experience in that term is that it is broad, right? We would love to have some experienced nurse aides, go to nursing school and become nurses themselves, but there's a lot of things out there that can be relevant, like lifeguarding or working in daycare or customer service retail, where you are dealing with people and solving complaints for people. So a lot of things that are relevant, which aren't just patient care.
Totally.
So,
being a waitress, a waiter, that's a huge one.
Yes,
dealing with that. I mean, I always look for that when I do interviews, because that skill and working with people, you can become very diverse in just how you deal with situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Can you describe some opportunities that Monument Health offers to pre-nursing and nursing students to gain more experience in the healthcare?
Yeah, absolutely. So pre-nursing, and I talked some with Samantha and Cassie about this, but it's a little bit tricky right now because of the pandemic. So the true job shadows aren't allowed right now, but have been and will be. So the clinical experiences and people that are allowed in, if you will, right now are those who are in formal programs and are needing credit hours and things to graduate. So in the nursing program, in the pharmacy program, in the phlebotomy program, whatever it is. So so job shadows and those experiential learning type things will happen again. So with pre-nursing, we'll team up for that. I know USD and SDSU are continuing their summer camps for high schoolers and middle schoolers this summer. So again, while they can't be on site in patient care areas, we're going to partner on that. And then also the exposure to the ideas even being in other areas, that would be great too. For nursing students themselves, of course here locally we are really the biggest, I would say, clinical partner for those programs. So we every semester develop this huge spreadsheet of master clinical hours, which are, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 different programs, including the 2 at Western Dakota Tech. Oglala Lakota College also we support with clinicals, so that again hands-on experiential learning is key, and we love to support students in that. It's a great learning environment for them and opportunity for us too. So another thing for nursing programs, the extern program that I mentioned. So this is it's called the CEP, Clinical Enrichment Program, and that is something that we are approved by the Board of Nursing to operate, to have. And so what that is a 10-week summer. It's essentially an internship, but an externship implies that we are the ones employing you and kind of setting the objectives rather than school. So it's a hired position, and it's a 10-week clinical, essentially. So it happens in the summer before their senior year, and it is just more hands-on, more exposure to a RN nurse mentor, and you work all summer doing the job with appropriate supervision, of course, which is what the board requires.
So then, do they have to come and work with Monument after that, or is it something where it's kind of a taste? Because like Daktronics has a 7-month internship where they go and then you can, stay there if they hire you, if you're who they want, or you can leave, and it's just a great opportunity for students to get that experience without having the commitment. So then they don't write on their resume, I did a 10-month job with them and now I left. It's just that testing period, so they write it as an experience rather than a... Yeah,
absolutely. And we bank on the fact we do not require a work requirement for having been an extern. Part of what we bank on with that is that you're going to learn a lot and have a great experience and want to come back. For the last couple summers, that conversion rate, if you will, has been 70-80%. I mean, so we hire a lot of our externs. Some people will say it's the longest job interview for both of us. You try us out, and we try you out, and it works a lot of the time, which is really great. So
that's awesome.
One of the objectives too of the board is that we are helping to grow the profession, right? Not just Monument nurses, but nurses for everywhere, and that's the point. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Are there any opportunities for community members to come and get a taste of things?
Ooh,
not right now, but in a normal world?
That's a great question. We do have on occasion, call it a job shadow, if you will, but my neighbor's kid wants to come see what such and such is like, or they think healthcare might be for them but don't know what. So a lot of the career classes that I'll go speak to in 8th grade and in high school, often kids will think doctors and nurses is all there are, and that's totally not, right? So some panel type opportunities where it's like you can hear from a physical therapist and a phlebotomist and a whoever. So.
I ask because the only way I can see what my fiance does for a job is watching Grey's Anatomy, and that's kind of the extreme. But it's so cool.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite nursing specialties, and how can nursing students or other students interested in the healthcare career learn about the different specialty areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. My favorites are probably where I've been. I started as a new graduate nurse at Mayo in solid organ transplant, so that was liver, kidneys, and pancreases.
So were you there with the cooler? Waiting?
I did not have the
Okay.
cooler. I awaited the patient who has the new organ.
So you were with the patient, like waiting there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, so that department was, I mean, a great one and a great learning experience. Really, it was a med-surg department, which I'll talk about in a minute, but really a broad base for new graduate foundational knowledge. But we had kind of half and half, like sick people waiting for transplant, and probably half, of the fresh post-operative, you have some new hardware type patients.
Yeah.
So fascinating, and the whole, I've continued to kind of be involved with and an advocate for organ donation and
Yeah.
that whole transplant process and stuff, knowing that the magic on one end doesn't happen with the sacrifice of somebody else.
Yeah.
So intriguing and completely rewarding and really a great field. And then of course I went to critical care from there, and I mean, I liked the fast pace. Again, I like the idea of being in people's lives at critical moments
Yeah.
and helping, right? And being somebody with an answer maybe. So at a really tough time for people. So a great team. That was when it was Rapid City Regional Hospital, but a great team there, and learned a lot. Of course, we worked through the Sturgis Rally, and that's a time out
Yeah.
here. That's an experience. So
Yeah.
so in terms of new graduate nurses, I mean, I love the idea of a med-surg foundation, so that is medical surgical, and that is, it is a specialty of its own, but really a nice foundation for anywhere you might go from there type of thing. I had, because of my experience going into nursing, I had a daughter, and I mean, I thought OB was going to be my
Yeah.
love, my world, and had the opportunity to go do transplant instead. So everybody kind of has that why. Sometimes it's, well, I cared for my grandpa with cancer, and so oncology is my
Yeah.
calling. And everybody has that thing, and thank goodness they do, because
Yeah.
we need all those.
Yeah, no
So,
kidding.
Yeah,
Very, very cool.
yeah.
So what do you enjoy most about working in healthcare?
I mean, not to be redundant, but I would really say that idea of being with people when they need you.
Yeah.
And just the idea of, like, we don't know everything and we can't fix everything, but man, I can be here and try, right?
Yeah.
Or when, being able to see people come into the world and being able to see people go out of the world, like, it takes that whole range, right? And people who have those experiences need,
Yeah.
like, caring, compassionate people to be like,
Yeah.
you are a stranger to me, but I need you
Yeah.
in this moment.
Yeah.
And to be there for those folks. It's really, really great. And then also, I mean, the team aspect of what we do, it's just, it's super rewarding to be able to, like, celebrate an accomplishment with a team, whether that is a successful organ donation case, frankly. I mean, not great news,
Yeah.
right, in some respects, but, like, man, we
Yeah.
carried out this patient's wishes, we made this
Yeah.
happen and got to the finish line, and, like, how great that was what it was.
Yeah.
And whatever
Yeah.
patient situation it is. So having teams, it's almost like this band of brothers, kind of, where it's like,
Yeah.
man, we worked that crazy weekend together or whatever it is, but here we all are on the
Yeah.
other side. So
Two questions. First, well, one comment. Those really neat, those Facebook videos talking about organ donations where someone's child died and they then meet the donor that has their new heart. Like, those are the most touching videos ever. Seeing them and then they give them the stethoscope and they get to hear it. I mean, that is amazing.
totally amazing.
So I totally understand where that would be a very rewarding specialty area. The other question is, how do you guys teach bedside manner? Because I know that that's one thing that typically doesn't really get addressed, but like you said, that's such a huge part of a nurse that, I have some physician friends, they'll probably agree with this. They sometimes aren't the most caring, heartfelt people. The nurses are usually the ones that are there comforting and making sure that, so how is that taught in the class or through these experiences?
Yeah, I will give credit to the nursing programs themselves where, I mean, from day one, nursing as a profession and not just a skill set, I mean, that's what's taught from the very beginning. So things like professional communication and crucial conversations and things like that, where it's like, you have to pick your words carefully, decide what it is that you want to say without either giving away too much or diagnosing. Like, we can't say what we can't say.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have knowledge they don't know yet, so really a sensitivity around being in those moments with people. So I will give credit to the schools with starting that early. And then, of course, through clinical experiences and really having those patient interactions.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it happens organically, like by accident,
Yeah.
because I think there's definitely some emphasis on that. But with each interaction, you learn what works and doesn't work.
Yeah.
And, I've never taken care of a patient who's that angry before,
Yeah.
right? And you will learn kind of what works and what doesn't. We are talking a lot recently now about workplace violence and some, angry patients and those kinds of things, and how do you keep yourself safe with advocating for
Yeah.
your patient, that kind of thing. So there are trainings around de-escalation and workplace violence and those kinds of things for unique trying to communicate and having a bedside manner in those situations, if you will. So I think it's definitely a partnership, again, between the schools and the on-site clinicals, where it's debriefing, what worked and what didn't in that conversation, but also providing people with the tools of, here's some skills as far as communication goes that you can pull out of your back pocket in a moment where your usual might not be working.
Yeah.
So take some time,
Totally.
but an important aspect
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask too, do you have a journal or a diary or something where you write down some of your most craziest situations?
I don't, but many of
you
them
all
are up
hear in
here.
your head?
As a new grad, I did start doing that actually,
Yeah.
and was like, I can't
Do it.
believe that. Well,
yeah.
I can't believe the things that I'm seeing
I know.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But also, like, this is one I don't want to ever forget.
Yeah.
And then it kind of turns out that you don't
Yeah.
forget those ones that are
Yeah.
ingrained. So
I really want to thank you for what you do, because I have learned a whole new level of respect for nurses just from hearing the stories that my fiance has. But I have a grandma that was a nurse and aunt that was a nurse. My aunt was actually a helicopter nurses.
flight.
Yeah, like wow, incredible stories that comes from her. But just and that's a big reason why I ended up dating this girl, is I just loved the personality she had for her compassion and care, and I think that's a real amazing trait that nurses have. So thank you.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
and kudos to all of them out there.
For sure, and all the future ones.
That's right.
Coming down the line. So shift from healthcare a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what do you do in your daily life to keep fueled, healthy, and ready to take on the day?
Yeah. An important aspect, something to keep in mind. I kind of mentioned I like to get out into the hills. There's this new term called work-life integration. It's been work-life balance for a lot of times. And so the idea
like that.
of work-life integration now is this theory where we know both things happen. Work happens and life happens. And technologically, we almost keep ourselves from being able to remove work, right? Like, I'll just answer this one email. I'll just do this one thing. But knowing and kind of recognizing that both exist and both are important, how to sort of balance the time and be mindful of where you are, whereas the work-life balance kind of implies this, draw a line in the sand, and that's not always possible.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I like to try to get out in the hills. Of course, I talked some about a theater as an escape and a fun time for me. Great friends, of course, and try to allow for some social time as appropriate. That's getting a little easier with vaccines on board and stuff. But I don't know, I love work and I love my team, so I guess I'm lucky to not feel like, man, I need to get out of here type of thing. Some days are better than others, right? But it's, so I'm lucky to have some good self-care kind of activities and plans and stuff. Try to eat well, try to exercise a little bit here and there. I'm probably not as good at it as others, but it's we'll often kind of talk in nursing or in healthcare about how invincible we aren't, right? And so it's like, man, you don't have to look very far to see a 40-year-old with COVID who died, or with this random stroke thing that shouldn't have happened, or a cancer that they're too young for, but those things happen. So it's easy to be reminded every day about, I need to be healthy, need to take care of myself. So so that's personally kind of what I do and think of. In terms of work, we have a really strong employee health and well-being department and program. So Live Well, it's what it's called. There's a website and a whole program and staff dedicated to it. But everything from, weight loss journeys to sleeping better to financial management to stress relief and all sorts of things that a person could be sort of going through or dealing with, and resources for those things. Classes online, more private options, if you will, as well as something called the Employee Assistance Program, EAP. So that is available. One of the downsides of healthcare is that we go through all these things and you can't go home and talk about it, right, with anybody. So it kind of allows that out to sort of hook us up with some third-party, therapists or whatever it is that to kind of have that out, to talk to somebody and that kind of thing. And that can be personal or professional life things, but EAP is there for us too, which is a employer-provided service.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Cool.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Great options.
I have one more healthcare question, actually. How would you like to see healthcare develop and improve over the next few years?
This seems so cliche, but I would love, for every position to be filled with a skilled, compassionate, caring nurse or whatever discipline who wants to be there, right? Perfect world. I think with engagement in our the organizations that we work for and in our teams and for our patients. I mean, it seems like everything else is solvable if that were the case, right? But so much of what weighs us down sometimes is, like a nursing shortage, for example, that has been here for years and will continue to be. There's a lot of talk about what COVID will do, right? Does it turn people away or does it invite people in as far as professions? So I don't know. So I'd love to see. I'd love to see that happen. Some people who are dedicated to their respective professions and looking for some longevity in this field, which is a lot to wish for, I know, because it's tough work. But so that's one thing. I think too, in terms of, technology can certainly be a blessing and a curse, but it's helped us in a lot of ways where we don't have to count the drops from an IV anymore, right? We have a smart pump that can help guide us how to give IV meds, but also so. Knowing that that's bound to change and grow, how can we adapt and continue to help, make our lives easier, if you will. So
totally. Yeah, I think you could say that with every profession,
right, Right.
So, no, that's great. I have another random question, but it's related to your theater background and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any upcoming shows that you've helped choreograph or?
Well, a few things. So actually, The Who's Tommy is a Black Hills Community Theater production, which was supposed to have been last March. So we got all the way to 1 week out. We were in our tech week, and it got called because of the timing. And so that has been rescheduled 3 or 4 times, and is going up at the Historic Theater at the PAC in May for a concert type version. So at the microphone standing.
It's a great show, or a great musical.
Yeah, so the music from The Who of the 70s and some great tunes, and we have a live band, and it's a great group. So that is happening a year late. Let's see, I'm choreographing, I'm helping to choreograph a good friend, Justin Speck, who's the theater director at Central High School. They're doing Mamma Mia at the end of April, May, and so helping to do some of that dancing, which is super fun.
Awesome.
Also some fun music there. And then I am choreographing one of the shows at the Playhouse this summer.
Cool.
The second of 3. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
What's your favorite one that you've ever done? Probably have a ton, but one that comes to mind.
Oh gosh. Strange as it sounds, The Full Monty was a really great one. But also Les Miserables, which was the first one that kind of brought me back into it back in 2013. Just a classic and a great team that put that one together.
So my mom was a theater teacher because of her background and stuff, and we didn't do a lot of heavy choreography productions because she was more musical performance. But I remember we did Brigadoon one year, and that has some crazy choreography with swords and stuff. But I was in an organization called Up With People. I don't know if you're familiar with them. We did a ton of choreographies. So I'm not much of a dancer, but they had, I was a tall white male and had to dance a couple things, and it was fun. So that's cool. Choreography's I never would have thought it's stress reliever, but it's fun. It's great.
Yeah.
And
it's great to make people. Sometimes I'll choreograph shows I'm in, but sometimes not. Like the Full Monty is not in. But it's also fun to develop stuff and make other people look good, which is true. And I think from my perspective, one of the keys to successful choreography is even if you don't have dancers, how can you do stuff and make them do stuff that makes them look good? So.
Well, and what's cool is to get someone that you come in and they have 2 left feet, and then they walk out being incredible dancers. I have a buddy that was that way. He was an athlete, so he knew his body, but he was an incredible choreographer. He could dance. He was amazing.
Yeah,
so
it's fun.
Last question, any final pieces of advice or wisdom for future nursing students or current nursing students or future nurses?
Yeah. To current nursing students, I would say, hang in there, stick it out and finish and come join us. It's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do. And one of the beauties of nursing, of course, is that there are so many things to do, right? If 12-hour shifts in the hospital, overnights on holidays aren't your thing, and for whom is that your thing?
Yeah.
Nobody, right? But there are so many different specialties, types of patients, types of diagnoses, if you will, that you can take care of, that there's just always something else, but you're still a nurse, right?
Yep.
So hang in there and stick it out. We will work through the pandemic and get to the other side. So pre-nursing or future nursing students, I would say do it.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah.
And know that you'll be, certainly here locally, I can speak to the programs and the schools with whom I work. They are just very supportive and want nothing other than your success. So we'll partner to make that happen. And certainly with this West River Health Sciences Center and AHEC as well, like the goal is to get you there. So
Yep.
there is support if you can do it.
Yep.
So, yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Holly, very
Thank
much
you.
for being here and
Yeah.
spending time with us this afternoon. Best of luck with nursing. Best of luck
you.
with choreography. And
Thank you.
I might have to come check out the Who Tommy
Do it.
production, the
Do it.
Pinball Wizard. That's a great song.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you
a good
so
rest of
much.
the day, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome.